The Last Firefly of Wishing Wood. Chapter 1. The Lone Spark. In the heart of a sprawling, ancient forest lay a secret place known as Wishing Wood. It wasn't on any map, and you couldn't find it by following a path. You could only find it if you truly believed in magic. For a long, long time, Wishing Wood had been the most magical place in the world. The trees hummed with a gentle energy, their leaves shimmering with colors you couldn't find in a paint box. The flowers, known as dream petals, glowed with a soft inner light, and the Giggling Brook chuckled and sang as it tumbled over smooth, mossy stones. But the greatest magic of Wishing Wood came from its tiniest residents, the fireflies. They were not ordinary fireflies. Each one carried a spark of the wood's own life force. Every evening, as twilight painted the sky in shades of lavender and rose, the fireflies would rise in a swirling, glittering cloud. They would dance through the air, their lights pulsing in a silent, beautiful rhythm. They tended to the dream petals, pollinated the Moonpetal Tree at the heart of the wood, and kept the darkness at bay. Their light was the wood's heartbeat, a constant, joyful glimmer that made everything feel safe and alive. But something had gone terribly wrong. Slowly, over many seasons, the fireflies had begun to disappear. No one knew why. A strange, quiet hush had fallen over the wood. The dream petals began to lose their glow, their colors fading to a dull, sleepy gray. The Giggling Brook's chuckle soft to a sad murmur. The leaves on the great trees no longer shimmered. They simply rustled with a tired sigh. The magic was fading. And now, there was only one. His name was Flicker. He was a very small firefly, even for a firefly. His light was not a bold, confident flash, but a soft, timid pulse. He lived in a hollowed-out acorn at the base of a giant oak tree. Every night, he would perform his duty alone. He would fly from one drooping dream petal to the next, trying his best to share his tiny spark of light. But he was just one little firefly in a very big, very dark wood. The task was too immense, the silence too heavy. He felt the weight of all the lights that had gone out. He was the keeper of the last spark, the final memory of the wood's once great magic. Loneliness was a cold, heavy cloak that he carried with him everywhere. He missed the swirling dances. He missed the soft hum of 1,000 wings beating in unison. Most of all, he missed having friends. One evening, as he sat on a toadstool, his light barely a pinprick in the growing gloom, a tear rolled down his tiny face. It wasn't a normal tear. It was a tear of pure light, and it fell onto the toadstool with a soft plink, shining for a moment before it faded. "It's no use," he whispered to the silent trees. "The wood is too big, and my light is too small. The magic is gone forever." He dimmed his light, preparing to hide in his acorn and let the darkness take over completely. He was tired of being the last one. He was tired of being alone. Chapter 2. A Whisker of Hope. Just as Flicker was about to extinguish his light for the night, he heard a tiny rustle in the leaves below. He froze, his little antennae twitching. In the fading light, he saw a pair of bright, curious eyes peering up at him. A moment later, a small field mouse with soft brown fur and a very long, twitching tail scampered up the stem of the toadstool. "Hello there," the mouse chirped, his voice full of cheerful energy. "I saw your light. It's beautiful. Are you a fallen star?" Flicker was so surprised he forgot to be scared. "A star? Oh, no. I'm a firefly." "A firefly?" the mouse exclaimed, his whiskers quivering with excitement. "I've heard stories about fireflies. My grandmother used to tell me how you would fill the whole forest with light, like a party in the sky every night." "My name is Pip. What's yours?" "I'm Flicker," he said softly, his light pulsing just a little brighter. Pip's cheerful face fell for a moment. "The stories said there were thousands of you. Where are all the others?" Flicker's light dimmed again. "I'm the only one left," he said, the heavy sadness returning to his voice. "I'm the last firefly of Wishing Wood." Pip looked at Flicker, then around at the shadowy, quiet forest. He saw the dull-colored flowers and the tired-looking trees. He could feel the sadness in the air. But Pip was not the kind of mouse to accept sadness. He was a creature of action, of hope, of cheese-finding and adventure-having. "The last one?" Pip said, tapping his chin with his tail. "Well, that makes you the most important one. It means your light is the most special light in the whole world." Flicker had never thought of it that way. He had only ever felt the burden of being the last, not the importance. "But it's not enough," Flicker sighed. "I try to light up the dream petals, but by the time I get to the last one, the first one is dark again. The wood is dying, and I can't stop it. Nonsense," squeaked Pip, puffing out his chest. "No one can do a big job alone. Not even the bravest mouse or the brightest firefly. You just need a friend. And maybe a plan." Flicker looked at the tiny, determined mouse. For the first time in a very long time, he felt a flicker of something other than sadness. It was a warm, hopeful feeling, like the first ray of sunshine after a long night. "A friend?" he asked. "Of course," said Pip. "I'll be your friend. And together, we'll figure out how to bring the magic back. Two heads are better than one, especially when one of them belongs to a very clever mouse." He wiggled his nose proudly. "There must be a way. There's always a way. We just have to find someone who knows the old magic. Someone very, very wise." Pip's eyes lit up. "I know just the creature. Sheldon the tortoise. He's lived in Wishing Wood forever. He knows all the stories, all the secrets. If anyone knows what to do, it's him. We'll go see him tomorrow." Flicker's light pulsed, a little stronger this time. The idea of not being alone was a powerful one. The thought of having a friend, a real friend, was even more powerful. Maybe, just maybe, Pip was right. Maybe his small light wasn't the end of the magic, but the beginning of its return. Chapter 3. The Tortoise's Tale. The next morning, as the sun cast long, sleepy shadows through the trees, Pip led the way. Flicker rode comfortably on his back, his light switched off to save energy. Pip was a fast and nimble guide, darting over roots and under ferns, chattering excitedly the whole time. "Sheldon lives by the Murmuring Falls," Pip explained. "He says the sound of the water helps him think. And he does a lot of thinking. He's probably thinking right now." They soon arrived at a clearing where a gentle waterfall cascaded down a wall of mossy rock into a clear, calm pool. And there, sitting on a sun-warmed stone, was Sheldon. He was an ancient tortoise, his shell a magnificent dome covered in intricate patterns that looked like the rings of a tree. His eyes were deep and kind, and he moved with a slow, deliberate grace that suggested he was in no hurry at all. "Good morning, Pip," Sheldon said, his voice a low, rumbling sound like stones shifting at the bottom of a river. "And who is this you've brought with you?" "This is Flicker," Pip announced proudly. "He's the last firefly in Wishing Wood." Sheldon turned his wise old head towards Flicker. He looked at the tiny creature for a long, silent moment. Flicker felt a little nervous under his gaze, but there was no judgment in the old tortoise's eyes, only a deep, ancient sadness. "Ah," Sheldon rumbled, "so it has come to this?" "I feared it might. The light has almost faded." Flicker flew off Pip's back and hovered in front of the tortoise. "We came to ask for your help," Flicker said, his voice barely a whisper. "Pip says you know the old magic. Is there any way to bring the other fireflies back? Is there any way to save the wood?" Sheldon blinked slowly. "The story is as old as the wood itself," he began, his voice taking on the rhythm of a storyteller. "The fireflies are not just insects, little one. You are the children of the Moonpetal Tree, the very heart of Wishing Wood. Your light is born from its magic, and in return, your light helps it bloom. It is a cycle of giving and receiving, of light and life." "The Moonpetal Tree?" Pip asked, his whiskers twitching. "I've heard of it. It's at the very center of the wood, isn't it? They say its flowers only bloom in the brightest moonlight." They used to, Sheldon corrected gently, but they need the firefly's light to help them open. Without your dance, the petals remain closed. And if the petals remain closed, no new fireflies can be born. The cycle is broken. Flicker's heart sank. So it's hopeless. No, said Sheldon, a faint smile on his ancient face. There is always hope as long as one spark remains. And you, Flicker, are that spark. The legend says that if the light ever fades to a single flame, that flame must be carried back to the heart of the mother tree. It must be offered willingly, a gift to rekindle the magic. Offered? Pip asked nervously. What does that mean, offered? Sheldon looked directly at Flicker. It means you must fly to the great central blossom of the Moonpetal Tree and place your light inside it. You must give your light back to the tree that gave it to you. Flicker trembled. If my light away? B-U-T, but that's all I am. If I give away my light, I'll be gone. I'll be nothing. The fear was cold and sharp. He had just found a friend, a glimmer of hope, and now he was being told he had to disappear. Pip rushed to his side. He can't do that. There must be another way. Sheldon shook his head slowly. The greatest magic requires the greatest courage. It is not about disappearing, little one. It is about transforming. The legend does not say what happens to the firefly, only that its gift will awaken the wood. The path is long and the wood has grown dark and dangerous. You will not be able to make the journey alone. He won't be alone, Pip declared, standing as tall as he could. I'll go with him. Sheldon smiled again, a true warm smile this time. I thought you might say that, and I will help you. I cannot make the journey with you, for my legs are slow and the way is far, but I can guide you with my knowledge. You must travel through the whispering reeds, past the Shadowy Dell where Hoot the owl keeps watch, and across the Giggling Brook. Each place will test you. But if your friendship is strong and your hope is bright, you will find your way. Flicker looked at Pip, who gave him a determined nod. He looked at Sheldon, whose eyes were full of gentle encouragement. He was still terrified, but he wasn't alone anymore. He had a quest, and he had a friend. He took a deep breath and let his little light shine as brightly as he could. It was still a small light, but now it felt like a beacon. Chapter 4. Through the Whispering Reeds. Their journey began at the edge of a vast marsh filled with reeds so tall they seemed to touch the clouds. As the wind blew, the reeds brushed against each other, making a soft sighing sound, like 100 secrets being whispered all at once. This was the Whispering Reeds. Sheldon said to follow the sound of the wind chimes, Pip recalled, his nose twitching as he tried to catch a scent of the right path. Flicker hovered above him, his light a small golden lantern in the dim marshland. What wind chimes? As if an answer, a faint silvery tinkle reached their ears. It was a beautiful, delicate sound, almost lost in the constant whispering of the reeds. There, Pip cried, and he plunged into the dense thicket, with Flicker following close behind. The path was a winding, confusing maze. The reeds were a wall of green and brown on either side, and it was easy to get turned around. The whispering sound was constant, and sometimes it sounded friendly, but other times it sounded like a warning. Flicker stayed close to Pip, his light bobbing nervously. After a while, they came to a large, muddy patch that blocked their way. It was too wide to jump and too sticky to walk through. Pip poked it with a stick, which was immediately swallowed with a soft, slurping sound. Oh dear, Pip said, wringing his paws. We can't go through that. We'll get stuck for sure. Flicker flew up high, trying to see if there was a way around, but the marsh stretched as far as he could see in every direction. The silvery tinkle of the wind chimes seemed to come from the other side of the mud. They were trapped. Flicker felt a familiar wave of despair. It's no good, Pip. This is the first challenge, and we've already failed. We haven't failed yet, Pip insisted, though he looked worried. We just need to think. Sheldon said the challenges would test us. What is this testing? Flicker looked at the mud, then at the tall, swaying reeds. He watched as a long, sturdy reed bent low in the wind, its tip almost touching the other side of the muddy patch before it swayed back again. An idea, as small and bright as his own light, sparked in his mind. "Pip, I have an idea," he buzzed excitedly. "We can't go over it, but maybe we can swing over it." He explained his plan. Pip listened intently, his whiskers twitching. It was a daring plan, and it had to be timed perfectly. Pip scurried up the tallest, strongest-looking reed he could find. He climbed until he was high above the ground, clinging on tightly. "Okay, Flicker," he called down. "I'm ready." Flicker took a deep breath. This was the first time he had been asked to use his light for something other than just shining. He flew in a circle, gathering his courage, and then began to pulse his light in a steady, rhythmic beat. Flash, flash, flash. He flew to the base of the reed Pip was on. "When the wind blows and the reed bends, I will give one long, bright flash." He shouted up. "That's your signal to let go. You'll have to swing your body to make it all the way across." "Got it," Pip squeaked, his little heart thumping with a mixture of fear and excitement. They waited. The wind sighed through the reeds. A gentle breeze made their chosen reed sway, but not enough. Flicker held his light steady. They had to be patient. Then a stronger gust of wind began to blow. The whispering grew louder. The reed began to bend, lower and lower, arcing over the sticky mud. "Now, Flicker, now," Pip yelled. The reed bent to its lowest point. At that exact moment, Flicker poured all his energy into his light, letting out a single brilliant flash that lit up the entire marsh. Flash! Seeing the signal, Pip let go. For a terrifying second, he was flying through the air. He tucked his legs and tail in, sailing in a perfect arc over the mud. He landed with a soft thump in a patch of dry moss on the other side. He had made it. He scrambled to his feet and turned, waving his paws. "I did it, Flicker, you did it. We did it." Flicker felt a surge of pride and joy so strong that his light pulsed brightly all on its own. He flew easily over the mud and landed beside his friend. They had faced their first obstacle, and by working together, they had overcome it. The silvery tinkle of the wind chimes sounded closer now, and the whispering of the reeds seemed to be cheering them on. Chapter 5. The Grumpy Guardian. Leaving the whispering reeds behind, the friends entered a part of the wood that was noticeably darker. The trees grew thick and gnarled, their branches interlocking overhead to block out most of the sky. This was the Shadowy Dell, the home of Hoot, the great horned owl. Sheldon warned us about Hoot, Pip whispered, staying close to a large tree root. He said Hoot doesn't like light. He likes the quiet and the dark. As if on cue, a deep voice echoed from the branches above. Who dares to bring that irritating blinking into my dell? Flicker and Pip looked up. Perched on a high branch were two enormous yellow eyes staring down at them. A huge feathery shape detached itself from the shadows and glided down to a lower branch. It was Hoot, and he did not look pleased. "A firefly," Hoot huffed, ruffling his feathers. "I thought we were finally rid of you buzzing, flashing pests. It's been so wonderfully dark and peaceful lately. We're not pests." Pip squeaked bravely, stepping forward. "We're on a quest. Flicker is going to the Moonpetal Tree to bring the magic back to the wood." Hoot let out a low, rumbling laugh. "Bring the magic back? You mean bring the noise back? Bring the blinding, blinking light back? No, thank you. The wood is much better this way. Quiet, orderly, dark. But the flowers are fading." Flicker cried, hovering in front of the owl. "The brook has stopped giggling. The wood is dying." Details, Hoot sniffed. "I can hunt better when it's dark. I can sleep better when it's quiet. Your magic is a nuisance. Now put that light out and be on your way." "We can't put it out," Pip insisted. "It's the last one. It's our only hope." Hoot narrowed his big yellow eyes. "Then I'll put it out for you." With a powerful beat of his wings, Hoot swooped down. A great gust of wind rushed towards Flicker, threatening to blow him away and extinguish his fragile light. Pip shouted a warning, and Flicker dove for cover, hiding behind a thick mushroom. The wind from Hoot's wings whistled over his head. "You can't hide forever, little spark." Hoot boomed, landing on a nearby log. Flicker was terrified. His light flickered weakly. Hoot was so big and so powerful. How could they possibly get past him? Pip, however, was thinking fast. He noticed that Hoot, for all his size, was very focused on Flicker. He wasn't paying any attention to a small mouse on the forest floor. Pip scurried silently through the leaf litter, gathering a long, tough vine. He crept up behind the log Hoot was perched on. You see, Hoot was lecturing. The world doesn't need all that razzle-dazzle. It needs dignity. It needs shadows. It needs ... At that moment, Pip, with a mighty heave, looped the vine around Hoot's feet and pulled it tight, tying it to a sturdy root. ... What in the woods? Hoot squawked as he tried to lift off, only to find his feet tangled. He flapped his huge wings, but he was stuck. What is this trickery? It's not trickery, it's teamwork, Pip shouted. Now, will you let us pass? Hoot struggled against the vine, his dignity completely ruffled. Untie me this instant, you minuscule mammal. Not until you promise to leave Flicker alone, Pip said firmly. Flicker, seeing his chance, flew out from behind the mushroom. He didn't fly at Hoot. Instead, he flew to a small gray flower that was drooping nearby. He hovered over it, pouring his light onto its petals. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, a faint shimmer of blue appeared on the edge of one petal. It was the first bit of true color he had seen on a flower in a very long time. Hoot stopped struggling and stared. He had been so focused on the darkness that he hadn't noticed how dull and gray everything had become. The tiny spark of blue on the flower was surprisingly beautiful. The wood isn't just about darkness, Hoot, Flicker said gently. It's about light, too. It needs both to be whole. Hoot looked from the flower to the tiny firefly and the determined mouse. He was still grumpy and he was still tangled, but a tiny seed of doubt had been planted in his mind. Humph, he grumbled. Fine, I will not try to put out your light. Now untie me. I have important napping to do. Pip cautiously untied the vine. Hoot shook his feet, ruffled his feathers, and without another word, flew back up to the highest, darkest branch he could find, pretending to go to sleep. Flicker and Pip looked at each other and grinned. They hurried on their way, leaving the Shadowy Dell and its grumpy guardian behind. They didn't know it, but from his high perch, Hoot opened one yellow eye and watched the tiny, pulsing light disappear into the woods, a thoughtful expression on his feathery face. Chapter 6. The Giggling Brook's Riddle. After the gloom of the Shadowy Dell, the sound that greeted them next was a welcome one. It was a light, tinkling sound like tiny bells being shaken. It was the Giggling Brook. The brook was wider than they expected, and the water, though clear, was flowing quickly. A series of smooth, gray stones formed a path to the other side, but something was strange about them. They seemed to shimmer and shift in the light. Sheldon said the brook likes to play games, Pip said, approaching the water's edge. As he got closer, a bubbly, laughing voice seemed to rise from the water itself. Welcome, little travelers. If you wish to cross my stream, you must first answer my riddle for me. A single, large, flat stone in the middle of the brook began to glow with a soft, watery light. Oh, a riddle. Pip clapped his paws together. I love riddles. The bubbly voice giggled again. I have no voice, but I can tell you stories. I have no hands, but I can paint pictures. I am brightest when all around is dark. What am I? Pip scrunched up his face in concentration. No voice, but tells stories. No hands, but paints pictures. ... He thought of the patterns on Sheldon's shell. Is it a shell? Giggle, giggle now. The brook laughed, and the stepping stone next to Pip sank beneath the water for a moment before reappearing. Flicker hovered over the water, thinking hard. He thought about his journey. He thought about the blue on the flower and Hoot's Dell. He thought about the hope he felt when he was with Pip. Brightest when all around is dark, he repeated softly. Then he knew. It was something he had been his whole life, but had only just started to understand. It's light, Flicker called out. Or a light. Like mine. Hooray. The brook bubbled with delight. The glowing stone in the center shone brightly, and the other stepping stones stopped shimmering and became solid. A safe, clear path now stretched across the water. You're clever, little spark. You may cross. Pip cheered and scampered across the stones, with Flicker flying happily beside him. They had solved the riddle together. As they reached the other side, they turned to thank the brook. Good luck on your quest, the brook giggled. The Moonpetal Tree is waiting for you. The sound of the giggling faded behind them as they continued their journey, their spirits lifted by the playful encounter. They felt stronger and more confident than ever. But as they walked on, they noticed the air growing colder and the light from the sky growing dimmer, even though it was still the middle of the day. A strange, heavy silence was falling over the wood, and a formless, creeping gray mist was gathering between the trees ahead. The hardest part of their journey was about to begin.